All right. We are live, another interview of Crooked Spine Show. I'm here with Dr. Heather Stone. She's going to understand exactly how thyroid problems work and how they work for everybody, for one. So my topic for her title is Your Thyroid Transformation Blueprint, and her 7 pillars, how to understand how to bring your autoimmune system disease into remission. My intro for her too is, have you been told by your medical provider there is nothing else we can do to help your thyroid condition? Or even worse, we don't see anything in the first place. Even if it's told, it's in your head sometimes too to patients. Dr. Heather Stone has created a thyroid transformation blueprint that has helped heal your thyroid, help people's thyroids heal, and keep you feeling and looking good and happy. Other doctors are also using these results and have adapted her blueprint. Let's find out how she gets women healthy again, even sometimes men too. So take it away, Miss Dr. Heather. How do you get into this for us? Why do you specialize as a chiropractor into thyroid conditions?
Yeah, so, as with most healthcare practitioners, I think there's always a story, always a personal health challenge that kind of leads us here. And whenever I was in college or undergrad, I was really struggling with weight and my energy, and I just did not feel like myself. I had issues with my menstrual cycle. And so I go to, one of the best OB-GYNs in Austin. And, I said, hey, this was back before this was pre Dr. Google. So there wasn't a lot of searching on the internet. It was what we could read in textbooks and things like that. And so I go and I said, I think I have a thyroid problem. I have all the kind of classic symptoms and, my menstrual cycles are a mess and I just can't lose weight. Will you check my thyroid? And he's like, sure, I'll check your thyroid. So, I come back in a couple of weeks and he's like, well, your thyroid is fine. And, I think your menstrual cycles are off because you exercise too much. And by the way, you're probably going to have fertility issues. So when you're ready to get pregnant, you can come back and we'll help you with that. I'm like, wait a second. What happened? I'm like, this is not what I was thinking or expecting. And I was really kind of thrown off because, first of all, he said I didn't have a menstrual cycle because I exercised too much. And I knew enough where I was like, wait, that happens when women have a really low body fat percentage. And I was 50 pounds overweight. I'm like, this is not what's happening. So for me in that moment, I don't know if I was grateful in that moment. I wasn't. I was a little aggravated or maybe angry. Yeah. But now when I look back, I have total gratitude because that was a moment where I was like, okay, my life is not going to be like this. I have to figure something else out. So once I figured it out, I was like, okay, there are millions of women who are suffering with these issues that need my help. And so that's what's really moved me into a functional medicine space. And that's what I've done the whole time, I've ever been in practice. This is what I was doing, while I was in school and after school. And this is my life.
And were you in chiropractic school back then when that happened? Your shift?
It was before chiropractic school that happened. And, the interesting thing is at that time, I was like, what kind of doctor do I want to be? And so I thought it was dentistry, and I went and, followed and interned at a dentist's office. I'm like, that is absolutely not what I want to do. Like, that is not for me. All day. So then I was like, I definitely don't want to work in the ER. I definitely don't want to do that. And then I had that experience with that OB-GYN. I'm like, this, for some reason, none of this resonates with me. And I had a friend who was like, hey, you're into athletics and sports, and I think you should go down the chiropractic route. So I did, and I worked for a chiropractor and ran his office for like 3 years in undergrad. He didn't do functional medicine, but that's just kind of how I'm like, okay, this resonates. The body's born to heal, and all the philosophy of chiropractic is what really resonated.
It's almost, you're looking at, okay, how do I, in my own mind, how do I actually live what I want to preach? At that point, stay healthy. Then from there, get more and more of the natural way of healing the body, correct?
Yeah. And, I wasn't necessarily opposed to any kind. I was just trying to figure out like what resonated with me. And I was on my own health journey. And as I found the answers through more natural, because I didn't have a disease. Right. So in traditional medicine, of course, there's a time and place for that. But if you don't have a disease where they can medicate you, then it's kind of like, well, just come back when it gets bad enough. So I'm
It's
like,
like,
okay,
we'll
that's
take
not where I.
something out, we'll medicate you, we'll do anything you want. Just get to that point, right?
That's right. We'll drug it out, burn it out, and what's the other one? Cut it out. But until
Cut it out.
then, you just have to deal with it. So anyway,
Sorry.
that's what got me on this path, and I think that functional medicine is exactly fits right in with the philosophy of chiropractic. And now it's kind of coming full circle
Hmm.
where we see more and more practitioners, MDs, DOs, chiropractors, all really getting into this space.
I did a lot of interviews a couple years ago during COVID with the functional medicine practitioners. A lot of them were nurses that transferred over. It's amazing when people understand I'm not getting the care I need. My blood work says I'm okay, but I don't feel okay. What's
Yeah.
wrong with me? And
Yeah.
and you go down to your doctor, you just get, as you had mentioned, you get the runaround. Well, you're here. Well, you're here. We can't do much for you for one, two. And taking a step back to explain to my audience too, what is a thyroid issue? What is Hashimoto's?
Okay, so the thyroid, just so we all are, know
Same
what
page.
we're talking about, is a gland that's right here in the base of your neck. And
Mm-hmm.
the purpose of the thyroid is to it is to regulate your metabolic rate or your metabolism. And the thyroid is so important in the body that it's the only hormone that has a receptor site at every single cell in your body. From your head to your toe, it's affected by the thyroid.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what happens with the thyroid usually is it slows down the production of its thyroid hormones. It mostly makes T4, and that gets converted into T3. And that's how your body regulates your metabolism. Now,
Mm-hmm.
the number we should be asking the question, why does the thyroid not produce enough thyroid hormones? Because the body doesn't just like wear out. It doesn't really just do that. Okay, so maybe when you're 100 or 120, we can say that. But when you're in your 20s and 30s and 40s, your
Right.
organs don't just wear out. So we got to think about, well, why would you go into hypothyroid, which means low thyroid function? And about 90 to 98% of people who are diagnosed with low thyroid actually have an underlying autoimmune condition called Hashimoto's. And that means that the immune system is tagging your thyroid tissue for destruction. All right. So you're essentially your immune system is destroying your thyroid. And that turns on and can turn on many years before you ever get diagnosed with low thyroid. So this is essentially what was going on with me, is that more than likely when I went to that doctor, I likely had Hashimoto's, but he didn't test me for it. And he was just testing, do I have low thyroid hormones? And I didn't. So I had to wait until, this is typically what happens. You have to wait until your immune system attacks your thyroid so much that it can't produce enough thyroid hormones. But there is a time period between when Hashimoto's turns on and when you would actually be diagnosed with low thyroid. Now, that time period is different for everybody. It depends on how aggressive the immune system is attacking the thyroid. It depends on ups and downs, right? Because it's not always like just, I'm going to kill the thyroid. It will ebb and flow, and there's all kinds of different triggers that will speed that up or slow that down. And so really what we're mostly dealing with when someone's diagnosed with low thyroid is that you have an underlying autoimmune condition. And the key to understanding that is that when you have an autoimmune disease, you are at risk for developing multiple autoimmune diseases. And with Hashimoto's, you're at a higher risk for developing thyroid cancer. And so there is a problem with just giving you medication and just giving you T4 hormone like Synthroid or levothyroxine and not really getting down to the root cause.
It's almost like you're treating, like you'd mentioned, the symptom, which is really just, it's the thyroid telling you, hey, there's a problem. Go find the problem underneath, versus
That's right.
just look at me for one, two. Then the medications again have side effects also, and you're almost trying to get symptoms to go away, but the symptoms keep coming back and forth, because you're not really treating the underlying condition like you had mentioned.
Yeah, and some of the symptoms that most people deal with when they have low thyroid is that they have a hard time losing weight, right? Because your
Mhm.
metabolic rate has been turned down. your hair falls out, you get brain fog, you can have anxiety and depression, you're not sleeping well. And so what happens when you get diagnosed with low thyroid and they get you on the appropriate thyroid medication or hormones, and if you, which is likely you will, still have all of these symptoms, then they start medicating the symptoms. Like here's a sleeping pill and here's an anti-anxiety, or here's an antidepressant. Here's like all of these things to kind of suppress all of these symptoms. But the body is amazing. It'll start giving you other symptoms, because if we realize the body's telling you that something's not right, that's why we have symptoms. That we just try to keep pushing them down to get relief without actually resolving the underlying imbalance.
And why do doctors miss that? Why do medical doctors, I mean, do most not want to see the problem, or just not specialize in that and don't understand what's going on?
Okay, so your doctor is not having malpractice or committing malpractice, and your doctor probably cares about you. And essentially, they're doing the standard of care. That is the standard of care. They're going to measure your TSH. If your TSH is high, they're going to give you thyroid hormones. Okay. And the TSH doesn't even come from the thyroid. It comes from the pituitary. So there's all kinds of things that could be happening, outside of the TSH. But when they look in their toolbox, when they say, what do I have so that I can use to help this person, it is thyroid hormones. They have T4 and T3 hormones. That's it. So they're going to try to do the best that they can with the medications that they have. But in traditional medicine, unfortunately, they don't try to find the root cause. That is not how they're trained. It is not how their brains work. It's not how their brains have been trained to work. It is find the diagnosis, give the medication or the surgery, or whatever. They just get rid of the problem, but don't find the root cause of the problem. So if you go to a traditional doctor and you say, I have Hashimoto's and I'm on thyroid medication, what else can we do? They'd be like, you're on the right meds. You're good to go. And so you're like, okay. And if I get rheumatoid arthritis, they're like, yeah, we'll give you a biologic to shut down the immune system. And if I get MS or if I get lupus, then they're just going to go shut down the immune system again, never really looking to find the root cause or all the different triggers that are causing the immune system to behave in this way.
It's going in a bad circle to where they're suppressing everything you're feeling, but not treating actually what's causing it. So that would actually help all the symptoms actually dissipate and make you feel like you're normal again.
Yes, exactly. Okay. And it seems like it's like so common sense, right? Like, of course, like that's the way we treat cars.
That's how we
think.
If
you take your car to the mechanic and they say, okay, this is, you have low coolant. I'm not a car person, so I don't know. Yeah. But like if I take my car to the shop when it says the check engine light, they're going to figure out a hose is busted or something is going on, and they're going to fix what caused the light to come on. Instead, what we do is we just put a black piece of tape over that check engine light and just hope nothing else breaks. Or when it breaks, we'll put another Band-Aid on top of that.
Or if you're like my daughter or stepdaughter, they just call me and say, I have an emoji on my dashboard. What do I do? That's what they do. It's like,
I've never heard of that.
That's emoji for you. Having kids is great. And we mentioned Google earlier too, Google and how that works. Why is the internet misleading people to how to treat their thyroid, their symptoms from thyroid issues? How's the internet, I guess, hurting or helping some people too?
Well, I think the internet is interesting. It is a blessing and a curse, because before the internet, we had a lack of accessibility to knowledge, right? So we had to go to the doctor to get their advice about what was wrong with us. There was, unless you're going to go read a medical textbook and try to figure all of that out, they held the information. They were the keepers of that information. But now we have Google, and you can Google anything. And the bad part about it is now we are in an information overload. We are in the age of information everywhere. And so now we are like, okay, how do I pick through all of this conflicting information? Because, you can see somewhere where it says, Hashimoto's, or it's just low thyroid, or go take iodine or take selenium and everything's going to be great, or follow this diet and don't eat these foods. And, most of those things are not even accurate, and people are trying to really limit their diet in such a crazy
Yeah.
way that's not necessary. I'm like, why have you not been eating broccoli and Brussels sprouts
Yeah.
and all of those cruciferous vegetables?
Natural
No,
foods.
yeah, I'm like, okay, so now it is like, okay, what applies to me? And with Dr. Google, it's giving you all the information that it can find, good, bad, ugly, true, not true. But really, we need to figure out what's going on with you as a human being, not what is going on with you who has low thyroid. We've got to take away the label that's been kind of stamped across our foreheads, and we've got to say, okay, what are you dealing with? Because
Hmm.
as you look at all the different triggers for autoimmunity, I'll just talk really quickly, like
Sure.
your blood sugar, or your blood sugar going up and down, or you could have high blood sugar or insulin resistance. You can have underlying infections. It could be bacterial, viral, yeast, mold, parasites. We could have liver dysfunction and detoxification issues and a high toxic load. So, like, all of these things contribute to your immune system, but which ones are you dealing with is yet to be determined. And so, Dr. Google can't tell you that. And so, if you want to really narrow down and know exactly the path that you should be going on, you
Hmm.
have to have individualized and customized care so that it gives you the best possible results in the shortest amount of time.
It's almost, and that's, I think, what people probably go to their doctor to go find, because they've read all this stuff, and I have that. I
Yeah.
probably have a thyroid issue. Doctor says this, and go, here's some medication. It's not working. Then you go back. So
Yeah.
they almost, it just keeps going back and forth, back and forth. When someone finally finds you, Dr. Stone, what is your live workshop intro usually entail? How does that work?
Yeah, so typically I do a master class, and that is how the only way people can even get into the process. Why? Because a master class gives you information, and it gives you education and a different way of thinking. So it allows me to give you information that you're going to need, regardless if you become a patient or not. It's going to help you.
Perfect.
I have patients that attend that master class and they are losing 10, 20. I think one lady lost 100 pounds. I've never even seen her. So I really try to give all the information that I know in these master classes. And then if it really resonates with somebody and they're in the right place in their life where their
Mhm.
health is their number one priority, we typically start with testing. So we
Good.
do very extensive blood testing and urine testing so that we're looking at all the hormones and cortisol and all of that good stuff. And that's where I look at an individual person and look and do a case overview, and can I help them clinically? And do I think that they're a good fit personally? Right. So making sure that they can follow through, because that's a really big part of people getting better is truly taking ownership of your health. And it's got to be a big priority.
It's almost, you're saying, okay, you have all the signs, say blood work, hormone testing, everything you're doing too. If you start this, you need to follow through. This is not a 1 day thing. I mean, some people say 90-day program, 90 days to change your overall body. It's something to where giving someone that window, oh, you have to have this commitment. This is an all or nothing thing if you really truly want to get healthy, correct?
Yeah, because for me, my
Hmm.
goal is to truly help women make a transformation. And
Hmm.
in my opinion, you're not going to do that in 30 days or 60 days. You can make some changes happen, but you're not going to actually heal disease, put an autoimmune condition in remission, because it can be so complex and there's many layers to the body of healing. And especially when we're dealing with toxins like mold toxins, heavy metals, environmental toxins, as much as I would like to blast these toxins out, we can only go as
Tomorrow.
fast. Right. We can only go as fast as the body can get rid of them.
Good.
Otherwise,
Good.
you're going to start reabsorbing these toxins and you're going to feel horrible and it's not going to be good for you. So, in my opinion, most people, it takes about, depending on what they're dealing with, 5 to 9 months of a very specific, more intense treatment plan to get them to a place where their body is healed, you're in optimal ranges, and then you know what to do to keep moving forward. So that's kind of how I have it positioned, because
Good.
ultimately, if I don't see a transformation, I lose sight of what it is I'm doing. And if I was only seeing patients 1 or 2 or 3 times, then for me, that's not fun. And for me, I can't really see how my work is impacting others. And so I really want to make sure that I'm able to see and those transformations and make a difference.
And when someone comes to see you, Dr. Stone, where are they at? I guess have they been already seen their doctor, medical doctor? They've already done tests. How long have they had, for example, early symptoms of a thyroid issue?
Oh, most of the people that I've seen, so my patients are typically in their 50s, 60s, 70s. They've
Got it. Okay.
literally had these symptoms since the birth of their children.
Mm.
So 20, 30, 40 years ago is when this all started. I mean, you can imagine. But the most amazing thing, I get goosebumps to this day when I see someone completely make a transformation at 75, at 80. I'm like, this is so cool. The body I'm like, I'm all, as long as I can continue to stay amazed at how the body can heal, I'm going to keep doing this type of work. But and I will say, most people in the very beginning, because they haven't been down such a frustrating journey, they always mostly start at the traditional way where you go to the doctor, they give you meds, and you kind of have to have like many fails before you get to me. Now, I have had some people, their mom is a patient or their grandmother is a patient, and they're like, as soon as there's any signs, you're like, you got to go see Dr. Heather. So I will see younger women during that phase as well. But mostly it's women who've been struggling for decades and they've been told that this is just the way life is. So get used to it. And I'm like, that is horrible because you don't have to do that.
And with your program too, how is mindset part of your program? What kind of mindset are you looking for people to get into? Like I said, follow through for 5, not 6, 7, 9 months to actually get those results.
Yeah. So mindset's huge. And it's, again, you have to change your mindset. You have to become someone different if you want to become someone different.
Yes.
Right?
Huge,
So you
huge.
have to be the person who is 30 pounds less and has more energy and all of that before you get to experience that. So, and the other part about mindset is so many of us are stuck in a state of worry where we worry about things or we're in a state of sympathetic overdrive, and you literally create stress hormones by thought alone. So it's like
Huge.
you've got to start breaking some of those cycles in order to get your body in a place where it can actually heal. But what I find with mindset is, first of all, there's two parts of that. We have to set goals. We have to connect with our why. We have to connect with what's motivating us to do that, because this is not a 30-day thing and then you go back to your old habits, which is the number one mistake everybody makes. They do it for 30 days or 60 days or 90 days. They may feel better and then they go back to the way that they were, and they're going to just end up back there. So you have to know and understand that this is a health journey that doesn't end until your last breath, right? Like it is a thing that has to be a priority for your whole life. So that's really, really important. I find that people who have a hard time sticking with things, they haven't reconnected with their motivations, and your motivation should be about, how would your life be different? What does it look like when you don't have pain? For example, I just accepted a new patient today. And her first thing was, I have a lot of pain, but she didn't like say, oh my gosh, my pain is excruciating. She kind of just mentioned it. So I wrote down like that was one of her symptoms. And then as she was talking more about it later on in the conversation, I said, okay, you want to decrease your pain. It wasn't even her first goal. And I said, what's your pain level on a scale of 0 to 10 on average? 10's excruciating. She said a 10 plus. I'm like, no wonder. Like, so I said, how long have you had the pain? And she said, my whole life. I felt like the pain was something I've carried around, and sometimes it's even felt like a friend. And I said, okay, if we don't figure out for you in your head what your life is going to look like without the pain, who are you without the pain? You have to create vivid memories, and you have to be in that space more than you're in this space. So it's going to take a lot of meditation. It's going to take creating a dream board. It's going to take a lot of things to create this life in your mind, because your mind doesn't know if it's actually happening in reality or just in your thoughts because it's actually the same. So you actually have to create and envision the movie of what it is going to feel like, look like, taste like, all of the senses into this movie in order for you to create a different life. And mindset is so huge. And the other part of mindset is for women, we beat ourselves up. And every time we look in the mirror, we are like, ugh, God, you're so fat. Some women stop looking in the mirror. Some people, they just beat themselves up literally most of the day. And so it's about catching those thoughts, redirecting those thoughts, choosing different thoughts. And so a lot of this 9-month treatment plan is working through these things that is going on in your mind, and then also what's going on with you physically, looking at the labs. And it's interesting because there's an 80-20 rule. 20% of the thing that moves the needle is what's actually is what most people are spending all of their time on. And the 80% is the mindset, how we think, what we're feeling, all of that stuff. And we never spend any time there. And so if we would actually just spend more time here, the needle would move exponentially more.
It's anything, right? If we think we can't do it, we can't do it. If we think we can do it, we can do it. And having someone as you as a coach, as a guidance, even your team too, allows them to go, I'm having a bad day. Let's do a quick chat. Let's figure this out. At that point, you get that mindset back on track right away. How much does your I guess coaching or your program entail? For example, I'll skip the questions. One-on-one training versus group training. How do you work your training from a person per person level?
Yeah. So the way that I have constructed treatment plans is in the very beginning, we usually start with making sure that all the detoxification pathways are open and functioning properly. So you have 3 different phases of detoxification. They all need to be functioning in order to clear toxins. So we start everyone there because that's the foundation. And then we do that in a group setting, which is like 2 to 3 weeks or 2 to 3 visits. All other visits are individualized because we have to have that one-on-one conversation about where they're at, how are they doing, what do we need to tweak, where are they at emotionally. So we like to have that one-on-one. Now, the other thing that I do that's really awesome is for the patients, I have a patient Facebook group. And they need that supportive community, but they'll say, I'm having a bad day. This and this happened. I'm really struggling. And then you'll see like 100 comments. Keep going. You got this. I experienced that. This is what I did. And so they have a group of people that are on the same journey and that have the same mindset. Because when you embark on this journey of health, mostly everybody around you is doing completely opposite of what you're about to start doing. And so they try to pull you back down, that you have to realize that they are sabotaging you, but not on purpose. Because what they're doing is you're holding a mirror in front of them and they're looking at how bad they're eating and how bad the choices that they're making. And so they want you to stop showing that mirror to them. So they're like, oh, come on, it's just one drink, or you can just have one piece of pizza. It's not going to hurt you. Right. So you have to have some come back, and you have to have a community and a group of people behind you that's on the other side of that saying you did it, or this is what I did when somebody did that to
There
me.
you go.
This is how I handled it. So having a really big community is priceless.
It's amazing because everyone's on different roller coaster ride, right? Everyone's on different part of that roller coaster, different stages. If you're just starting out, someone's at stage 3 or 4, they've gone through what you've gone through. Maybe different. Maybe they don't like chili cheese fries like I do. Maybe that's just not their thing. But they're doing something to where, how do I avoid this? How do I do more of this? So you're getting someone to go, I mean, not know you personally, but I've been there. I can help you get through that.
Yeah. Like the other day, somebody said, oh, I had a headache on the first 3 days of no coffee. When is this going to end? And like a gajillion other people are like, don't worry. Like day 4 or 5, you're going to be fine. And then they come back and say, you're right. It's all good. So it just kind of keeps them moving forward.
When it keeps them out of their own head sometimes too, probably talking themselves out of it versus into it. Just huge. Going into also certain food, beverages, which food beverages do you recommend, for example, someone going through the program that helps them recover or may even hurt their program success rate?
So there's a few answers here, but what I'm going to say is the number one thing that people with autoimmunity and Hashimoto's should avoid is gluten. So
Got it.
gluten, it actually, when you eat gluten, it will cause an immune response. It's called molecular mimicry. And so the gluten molecule looks very similar to the thyroid and to the cerebellum of the brain. And
Yes.
so when you eat gluten, it literally causes your immune system to attack the thyroid. And so those antibodies will stay circulating in your system for up to 90 days. So gluten in any amount will really trigger this whole autoimmune issue. And so that's kind of like the one thing, like if you were going to do one thing, gluten is it. However, you can do gluten-free wrong.
Okay.
So a lot of people are like, oh, I tried gluten-free and that didn't work. I'm like, well, how did you try gluten-free? So, they were like, well, instead of pizza with gluten, I went pizza without gluten. And I also ate donuts and I ate cookies and I ate candy and I ate all these things, but they were all gluten-free. And I'm like, okay. So the other part of this is, yes, gluten is not good. And now, I mean, I've been gluten-free for 20 something years. And when I was gluten-free, there was not a gluten-free product. Like there was
Yeah.
nobody even heard of what that was. They looked at me like I was a crazy person. Now it's much easier, but there's a lot more available. And just because it's gluten-free doesn't mean you should eat it. So a lot of these gluten-free grains have a much higher sugar. And every time you eat sugar, it's going to cause your blood sugar to spike. You're going to get an insulin surge. And that also will trigger the immune system. Not to mention, every time you get an insulin surge, you're going to be storing fat. So, we got to really pay attention to how the foods are impacting our blood sugar. So really staying away from grains most of the time is going to be a better solution than just going grain free.
It's almost like they want the food to taste good, so people buy it. So read the label and see, okay, I have less of this, but this has 20 grams of sugar. Maybe not the best thing
Yeah.
for me. Maybe not.
Yeah, I was looking at somebody posted something. They were like, Dr. Heather, I found this pasta. It's supposed to be all amazing. And I'm like, I look at first of all, the
Label.
ingredients were like
Yeah.
chickpeas and some other things that are super high in carbs. But I look at the carbs and it was like 45 grams of carbs in like half a cup. I'm like, girl, your blood sugar is going to go sky high. And I bet you if you looked at regular wheat pasta, it's probably not that high. So you got to really pay attention to reading the labels and the ingredients.
And again, it's a learning process for some people. They just don't know, so I call them just being naive. How do you make
Yeah.
people more educated, take care of their own health? At that point, they don't need us. That's the hope. That's my job.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I always crack myself up. Well, I laugh at myself often, but I always say I made it completely the worst business model because my goal is to take you from where you're at to helping you have a transition.
I'm going to make you.
Yeah, not a lifetime patient. I'm not trying to create a lifetime
No.
customer.
I just tell them I want to make you your best doctor yourself, so you know how to take care of your body. You know?
You need a few check-ins, and that's fine. But I don't want this, this weird relationship where you need me for every little thing.
And I would assume, being a medical doctor who deals with this maybe on a consistent basis, how do you and this is off topic, how does their mindset maintain a positive mindset when all they see the same people coming over and over again? Doc, I have the same symptoms, I have the same problems. How does medical doctors deal with that?
Well, I was having a conversation with a medical doctor last week, and she's now practicing functional medicine. And I think there's a lot of doctors that are they just don't like what they're doing anymore, and they're trying to find different solutions. I think other doctors are kind of stuck in a place where they paid a lot of money for their education. They are making a lot of money. And so they choose not to even go where you're going. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
and you
this
went
is
to school
just
with people like that too, right?
What's that?
We went to school with people like that also, right? Where they went into chiropractic or the profession to make money. That was their thing.
And there's all kinds of doctors like that, right? Like there's chiropractors that kind of just adjust the spine and don't ask deeper questions. Like, why do I have to keep doing this
No.
every single week? Like, why is this not staying? So
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of doctors across
It's almost
all.
the person, not the profession, right? It's the person's
Yeah.
personality, not the profession.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Just my own
So
little side notes. I
I
don't know.
feel like I had a different calling for this. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, I'm truly here to spend time and help people with transformation. And I'm also growing my own journey and my own knowledge of health and what works and all this stuff. So for me, it's just my life and my lifestyle. My family lives this way. My husband lives
Mhm.
this way. Like, it is just our life. It isn't a profession. It's not a job for me. It is something that is, just it is part of me. So that I'm always going to be growing and trying to figure out this, puzzle of the
Mhm.
human body more and more. So I do think it's when it's a job for you and you kind of just get stuck in the job, then you don't really ask questions or dig deeper.
It's almost my favorite day of the week is Monday because my patients entertain me. That's my fun for the week, right? I mean, they tell me stories. It's almost like when you like what you do, you want to be doing it all the time.
Yeah.
All right,
Yep.
this is what I do.
Yep, I always said I'm never retiring. What I do maybe in 10 or 20 years might not look exactly like what I'm doing, but it will be in this space and continuing to move forward. And this morning I met with a patient. I just was like so happy for her and so giddy. I'm like, God, she's the best lady ever. She's going to do so great. Like, if you can have that feeling when you're working, and I laugh all day with patients my
Yes,
staff is like, why do you laugh all the time? I'm like, I don't know, because I'm having good fun. I'm having
I don't want to
fun.
cry. Cry, dude, processing. I don't want to cry with my patients. Come on, no. But I think when you get someone to understand it and enjoy being you because they trust you, it's like it just continues to have that more and more energy. So everybody wins.
Yeah,
That's the
exactly.
plan, right? That's the plan. Going
Yeah.
back, I want to go back to the show because I don't want to get things finished up for one too. Going back to exercise now, how does
Hmm.
exercise help or hurt thyroid recovering patients, and what are the correct exercises to do?
Okay. So if you could imagine drawing like a bell-shaped curve, and then
Okay.
you put a line right in the middle. On the left side of that curve is called eustress, EUSTRESS. That's good stress. On the right side of that curve is called distress, DIS.
Good.
I don't know if there's two,
Yeah, I got
STRESS. Okay.
it.
All right. So you got good stress and you got bad stress. But once, sorry, my Siri turned on. Okay.
No
I
worries, no
think we're
worries. We're
good.
good. We're good. We're good. We're good on my end.
Okay, so once you cross over from eustress to distress, that's when exercise and any other stress starts to become too much for the body to handle.
Good.
All
Okay.
right. So sometimes when people are in a state of disease and their doctor says go eat less and exercise more, and they're like, doctor, if I exercise more, I literally have to recover for a week before I could ever do it again.
Mm,
So there's some ways that you could like that person would be in a state of distress and the exercise would be pushing her further into that state, not allowing her body to heal. Now, there's a few things that you can do. First of all, moving the body is important, no matter where you're at on that spectrum. Like getting the body moving so that you can move lymph. So walking and light bouncing would be very
mhm.
helpful. But you have to, these are some things to know when you exercise, if you over exercise. Number one, you're so sore or uncomfortable that it disrupts your sleep. Okay. If it's disrupting your sleep, I've done that where I lifted way too heavy, and every time I
Ugh,
turn over, I'm like, oh gosh. So that was
painful.
overdoing it. Okay. And then the other thing is, can you do the same thing the next day? Now,
Good one.
if you are lifting, you're not supposed to do the same thing the next day, but could you if you wanted to or you needed to, right? You might be sore, but
Yeah.
you could probably push through it. But if you're like, I can't walk the same amount that I did yesterday because I'm so done, or it takes me 2 days to have recoup the energy, know that what you were doing was way too much. So it's on an individual basis, and we have to figure out what our goals are. if we have to figure out what our fitness level is, and then start to work so that you can stay right under that distress, but constantly improving and moving your body so that you're improving your physical fitness. And so whether that's walking or weightlifting, I don't care. We don't have to get into the details. If you're someone who does zero activity, start walking, like do something. Because some people say there's so many choices, they don't know where to start. So just start somewhere.
And how does that help someone's hormonal levels and thyroid issues when they do exercise and they do that for say, for example, as a habit, as a long-term habit?
Yeah. So there's so many things that exercise helps with, right? So it helps with your blood sugar. So the
Mhm,
more muscle mass you have, the more stable your blood sugar is. We can kind of pack those glycogen
mhm,
stores into your muscle, and you have you have just, you don't have to be so careful with your diet. I always use this example. My two boys are athletes. One's a college athlete. He plays baseball. And we were just doing an experiment. I stuck a continuous glucose monitor on his arm because I was trying
okay,
to prove to him that the way he was eating was not good. So what we did was, he's like, I'm going to go to In-N-Out and
yeah,
I will get a burger without the bun, but I'm going to eat fries and I'm going to do milkshake. I said, okay, let's just see what happens to
yeah,
your blood sugar.
mm,
I said, but I want you to eat it in this order. I want you to eat your hamburger first without the bun
protein,
with your
okay,
lettuce, and then you can have fries and then have your shake. So he does it. Okay. And just, I will give you a picture. He is 200 pounds, 6 foot, and like
yeah,
literally 10% body fat. So he's like loaded with muscle. So his blood sugar barely goes up. It goes up to like 130. And I would expect it to, like, if I ate that, my blood sugar would be like 250. Like, it
ugh,
would be crazy. So then he tested it again. And he
yeah,
said, this time I'm going to drink the shake on my way home. And
okay,
then I'm going to eat the fries. And then I'm
so
going to
that
eat the burger.
first it,
And
okay,
so we did it in reverse order. And his
uh,
blood sugar also went up to like 180. He goes, okay, so first of all, there is a way we should eat in order. But second of all,
yeah,
mine didn't even go kind of high as yours goes. So muscle mass plays a really big role in blood sugar regulation. Now we know that there's loads of studies that show us that, but I had to, when you're dealing with a teenager who knows everything, you kind of have
of
to
course,
show him.
like whatever, mom.
Yeah, whatever. So anyway, working out, building muscle really improves blood sugar, but also not just building muscle. Like if you are doing cardio, if you are doing yoga, all of those things, the movement and the using of that energy allows you to balance your blood sugar better. All right. It also improves your sleeping. All
Mhm,
exercise improves cognition. There's loads of studies that are now coming out about, high intensity exercise, how you're getting blood flow to the brain to really improve cognition. I
mhm,
honestly don't think, the only thing I could say is that over exercising is a thing, and it can really keep you stuck, and it'll create cortisol production and you'll gain weight around the midsection. You have to find your balance. You have to find where that level is. You don't know where the level is until you go over it, right? So you're like,
you
oh,
gotta get there first. Most people don't have the
really
problem doing
over.
that. Like you said, most people
Yeah,
just can't show up to the gym. They can't do this. Like you said too, it's gonna also someone's mindset. They're gonna feel like I just feel better.
yeah,
That's I
absolutely. I
mean,
mean, there's all kinds of neurotransmitters that get produced whenever you
mhm,
exercise, and all of this. One thing to say, if you're somebody who you just can't go to the gym, like it's like get everything you've got to get up and start to
mhm,
exercise, but once you start going, you feel much better. That's usually a blood sugar issue, more of like insulin resistance. So
yeah.
sometimes in my mind, I'm like, okay, I don't feel like going today, but I know I don't have insulin resistance. I'm going anyway.
Like
So
just
I'll
go
just
talk yourself out of it. No,
talk
no.
myself.
And,
Yeah.
and going
So
from yeah,
go ahead.
and
Go
going
ahead.
from exercise to if you want something in the program rather going pretty well, how do you now do you acquire or look at some supplementation, maybe minerals or vitamins as part of their health, I guess, journey?
Oh, yeah. So it's a big
Good.
part, right?
Okay.
So
Good.
it's not the only part, but it is a big part, right? Especially with detoxification and clearing toxins out and working on liver function and even thyroid function. there's a big imbalance with a lot of people where they don't convert T4 to T3. So this is called an underconversion. So the thyroid mostly makes T4, which is not usable to the body. The body doesn't use that. It has to change it or convert it into T3 hormone. And that's what the body uses. That's what raises your metabolism. That's what slows it down. So you have to have this conversion of T4 to T3. Now, 70% of the time that happens in the liver. So if you have liver imbalances, it's going to impact that. 20% of the time that happens in the gut. So if you have gut dysfunction, leaky gut, an imbalance in your microbiome, infections in your gut, you find also it's going to be a big deal. It takes also minerals and vitamins and enzymes to convert that. So do you have enough of those to convert that properly? So the body is very intricate and it needs a little bit of help a lot of times if we have high toxic loads or low vitamins, minerals, and deficiencies like that. So dietary recommendations, nutritional supplementation, exercise, mindset, that's kind of like all what we really look at when we're constructing a treatment plan.
It's almost you're trying to detox the body first, then add everything back in to keep the body healthy from the inside out. At that point, we can start moving things around to get things really work more efficiently.
Yeah, and you're always trying to find the highest priorities, right? So for some people that's different, but so like toxic load, blood sugar, adrenal dysfunction, those are kind of underlying infections. Those are kind of like the highest priorities. Once you start really making headway on that, you retest, and then maybe your priorities change a little bit. And then we retest until there's no more priorities, until you're like, okay, you're in optimal ranges, you're feeling good, your symptoms are gone, you're good to go. This is what you need to continue moving forward.
Good. And then anything that, and going kind of wrapping things up almost, anything I missed that you wanted to bring up about your program?
Not really. I think the most important thing, if we didn't express it enough, is to get the appropriate testing, right?
Good.
So I think and not just testing for thyroid. You've heard me talk about blood sugar and liver and underlying infections and toxins. Like you've got to really thoroughly test the body so that you understand how the body is working and how it's dysfunctioning. Because in our society, we have set it up so that the medical system is divided into compartments, right? You go to a thyroid doctor, an endocrinologist that looks at your endocrine system. And then you go to a nephrologist that looks at your kidneys, and a neurologist that looks at your brain and all of these separate parts, a gastroenterologist that looks at your gut. Instead, if you would just look at the body, because the body doesn't work in systems, the body works all together. It all works together. It communicates in seconds, like in milliseconds, like faster than we can even think about how the body communicates with one place to another. Your blood sugar impacts your thyroid function and your cholesterol and the inflammation in your cardiovascular system. So that's why you have to do testing, and not just like thyroid testing, not just the TSH, but you've got to look at everything as a closed system because it's all working together.
You brought something up too, to where if someone does see the medical doctor for this, they go, well, I'm not sure. Let's go see an endocrinologist. You're talking about another 6 weeks, maybe 5 weeks. By the time you see all these specialists, either you're going to be dead or you're going to be within a year of your initial diagnosis per se.
Yeah,
At least,
so it
in
takes a long
California.
time to get anywhere because they're sending you back and forth from one specialist to the next specialist, and the information is right in front of them. So, it's really important that we look at the body as a whole and stop breaking it into parts.
And I think you do a good job explaining your program, how it's ran, how it can help women and men understand how to take care of their thyroid, take care of their health, even if they may not have an issue like that. You can walk through it in your live workshop exactly what's going with their body. All right.
Yeah, because
Anything else?
we get women who have not been diagnosed with low thyroid, and they have the thyroid symptoms and have been and have no thyroid. So it's the whole gamut. When you apply a functional medicine approach to any person, you're going to come out with a much more well-rounded treatment plan and better health.
it's almost looking at that as, like you said, a whole person. A functional medicine practitioner can help you that, and you have a specialty to help them actually recover from thyroid issues. So
Yeah.
thank you for being on the show today. Quick 5-second hold smile for the thumbnail. And we're good. Hold on for 1 second. Thanks for watching, my friends, and I'll be back 1 second.